But this week, the bizarre case of Giggle versus Tickle came to an end. This is the case that has been covered extensively on Sky and here on Outsiders. An app for girls, Giggle for Girls, was set up by Sall Grover some years ago. And a biological male, now identifies as a woman, Roxy Tickle, tried to join the app. After various processes, Sall Grover and the app said, no, actually, you're not a biological woman, you're a biological man, so you're not joining the app. This went to court, and it is this week in a Queensland court. It was found in favour of Roxy Tickle, in other words, of the transgender woman, and Giggle, the app, is forced to pay 10 grand and legal costs to Roxy Tickle. Joining us now, I'm delighted to say, she's been with us on Outsiders many times before and on Sky, Sall Grover, who of course is the CEO and founder of the app Giggle for Girls. Great to see you, Sall. Now, to be honest, this was a loss in the court, but to be honest, I think you were kind of expecting this loss, was my understanding. Tell us how you feel about it now that it's all over and where to from here.
Well, first of all, I have to say it wasn't a Queensland court, it was the Federal Court of Australia. Right. And yes, it was a verdict that we had anticipated due to the legislation as it currently is, because in 2013, under Julia Gillard's government, our first female Prime Minister, who has dined out on that fact for a decade, brought in amendments to allow gender identity into the Sex Discrimination Act, thereby allowing men to be considered women and essentially rendering the entire act completely useless. So how do I feel? I feel absolutely devastated. I mean, it's not even a professional issue. This is personal. I'm a woman and I want to have rights, and I want every single woman and girl in Australia, in the world, to have rights. And so basically to be told at this point that we have less rights than a man who claims to be a woman is a pretty devastating place to be.
Rita.
And it can't end here, Sally. This is too important. Is this going to go to the High Court? Are you going to take this all the way to make sure we have these protections for women and girls in Australia? Because I know there's people around the world looking on in disbelief about what's happening in this country.
Yeah, I've said from the very beginning, when it was just an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint, that I would take it as far as I needed to, and always knowing that the High Court was really potentially where this was going to end up, because either side would have appealed based on what this decision was. So, yeah, I will be appealing and going all the way with it, because, our fight has always been that sex is a biological reality. It's a biological concept. And what we have now been told is that sex is changeable, that it's just a legal concept, that it's this ordinary meaning of sex is that it can be changed. And that's just not how it is in reality in society. In society, the ordinary meaning of sex is biological. That's how we make decisions. That's how lives are lived. That it just can't be that the law does not reflect society so drastically like it currently is.
James.
So what are the implications then for this case now? I mean, if we are now in a position where, legally speaking, gender doesn't exist, when this is a reality that every single human being lives with every day, where does this go, and what other spaces could then be at risk of being, allowing biological males into them? I mean, you could see everything from locker rooms to Muslim prayer halls for women.
Without a doubt. I mean, women like myself have been screaming about this for years. In fact, you guys, and this show was the first one to have me on in the latter half of 2020, and I'm so grateful for it. You were the first media platform to let me speak about this issue. And I was literally saying then that I was talking about how Giggle was under attack from men who claim to be women. And I was also saying, we have to protect women's spaces from bathrooms to change rooms to prisons. There are men who claim to be women in Australian prisons right now. They're sex offenders.
Yes.
This is what happens when you claim that sex is changeable or that gender identity is more important than sex. Everything breaks from them, because you are actually making a complete untruth about the most basic truth in our lives, which is male and female. You are putting that lie ahead of everything else. And so everything in society just breaks from there. Now you can just have any man claim to be a woman. He can just walk in to a woman's bathroom. We have no rights to say no. So while there are politicians going on about women should have the right to speak, well, you know what? Yeah, I agree. And that includes being able to say no to men in female spaces in sport. It's that simple.
And sadly, so many of those female politicians are not on the right side with this fight. Just personally for you, Sal, you're a new mum, and it seems like the entire time you've been a mum, you've been embroiled in this court case, which would be enormously stressful. You're now going to the High Court. I mean, it must come at some personal cost to you. I mean, the legal issues, the cost of them, the stress of them. Why are you taking on this fight rather than living your life?
Yeah, I mean, it is incredibly stressful. My hair is falling out. It's that stressful. Yeah, I got the Australian Human Rights Commission complaint when I was 15 weeks pregnant. About 5 weeks later, just with a scan, I found out that I was having a girl. My little girl is now 2. So for the entirety of her life, I've been dealing with this. Throughout the entirety of this process, I've been dealing with the reality of being female, of we're the ones who have the babies. I can't let it go because I have a daughter. She has to have rights. I cannot send her out into the world where she has no rights, that she can't say no to a man. So, I mean, I think any mother would do it to make sure that their daughter has rights. It's really that simple. And so while I would prefer to be doing literally anything else, I mean, this is just what I have to do. And so, yeah, I mean, it cost us $500,000 in federal court to fight this. For the High Court, it's going to be anywhere between $500,000 to about $800,000. So we're crowdfunding. We crowdfunded the first one. We're crowdfunding this one. It's gigglecrowdfund.com, and we'll be updating when we get more information. And yeah, and we'll let everybody know what's going on. But it's still very early days of looking at our options.
So I know you've had a lot of support from people like Catherine Deeves, Moira Deeming and others, Kelly Jane Keane and so on. So you mentioned the page that you want people to go through, the GoFund page for Giggle. Also, what about Giggle, the app? I mean, I remember that all those years ago we were encouraging people to get onto the app. How is the app going, and what can people do, what can women do to get onto the app and to help you?
Well, the app has actually been offline for the past 2 years. So a man who claims to be a woman couldn't even use it right now if he wanted to, because women can't actually use it. It's been closed down because of this case. We're waiting until it's until basically that Australia will allow a company by women for women to run. At the moment, we're not allowed. So when they have these government initiatives for like female startups and female founders, if you're actually doing something for females, you're not allowed to do it.
What a tragedy.
Yeah. The app will eventually be back, but it will always be. The app will be
back. In the meantime, we want people to go to the Giggle GoFundMe page to help Sall Grover there. So, Sal, keep up the great fight. You're very brave. A lot of women out there supporting you. Disappointing
a lot of women
week.
Around the world.
A lot of women around the world. Absolutely. And keep up the great fight there, Sall Grover.